The sound that stopped Rowan Mercer in his tracks was not a cry, but a whisper of fear coming from a sunlit room that should have been filled with peace. It was barely past noon when the millionaire came home early, his tailored jacket still warm from the car, his mind still buried in boardroom victories. Yet as he stood in the hallway of his glass and stone house, the silence felt heavy, and the soft, restless movement from his 4-year-old daughter's room made his chest tighten in a way no financial loss ever had. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Life Spark Stories, because stories like this remind us what truly matters. Rowan had built his life on speed, precision, and control. He had risen from a modest background to become a self-made success, filling headlines with his name, and his bank accounts with numbers that no longer felt real. Since his wife's passing 2 years earlier, he had convinced himself that providing everything meant doing everything right. The best schools, the safest neighborhood, the brightest rooms flooded with daytime light. His daughter Myra had a room painted with soft clouds and shelves full of toys, yet every night she barely slept, and every morning her eyes looked older than her years. Rowan told himself it was a phase, something children grew out of, because the alternative meant admitting he was missing something vital. That afternoon, as sunlight poured through the curtains, Rowan stepped into Myra's room and finally saw what the night reports from the nanny never captured. Myra sat on her bed, small shoulders tense, clutching a worn blanket that was not part of the designer decor. Her eyes were fixed on the door, not in imagination but in expectation. The room was bright, safe, and quiet, yet fear lingered like a shadow that refused to leave even in daylight. Rowan noticed faint dark circles under her eyes and the way her fingers trembled, as if her body had learned to stay alert long after danger passed. Slowly, pieces of truth surfaced. Myra was afraid of being alone when the house grew quiet, afraid that silence meant forgetting. Since her mother's death, nights had become a long stretch of waiting, and days were simply preparation for the dark. The staff rotated, schedules changed, and Rowan was always busy. In her young mind, love had become something temporary, something that could disappear if she closed her eyes too long. Rowan realized that every restless night was not about monsters or shadows, but about absence. The struggle hit him harder than any crisis meeting ever had. He had tried to replace presence with provision, warmth with wealth, and time with promises. Standing there in the middle of a bright afternoon, Rowan felt the fragile weight of his choices. He remembered how often he had kissed Myra's forehead while already checking his phone, how many bedtime stories were rushed summaries, how many mornings he left before she woke. The fear in her eyes was not born in the dark, but in the moments he was not there. Change did not come with a dramatic gesture or a grand purchase. It began quietly, with Rowan sitting on the floor beside his daughter, staying longer than his schedule allowed, letting the world wait. He rearranged meetings, shortened trips, and learned the rhythm of her days. He created new rituals under the same daylight that once fooled him into thinking everything was fine. Slowly, Myra's shoulders relaxed, her sleep deepened, and the house began to feel less like a monument and more like a home. As weeks passed, the transformation was undeniable. Myra laughed more easily, napped without fear, and stopped clutching her blanket as if it were a lifeline. Rowan learned that being present was not a sacrifice but a return, a reclaiming of something he had unknowingly lost. Wealth could build walls, but love built safety, and safety was what his daughter needed most. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to engage with this video and support Life Spark Stories. Because your interaction helps these messages of love reach others who may need them today. Special request: please comment below what this story made you feel or who it reminded you of.